Hello, welcome. It's John Florescu here in Bucharest, Romania. And today's guest is Ambassador Adrian Zuckerman. And you spoke about the top priority is to fight corruption. What grade would you give the Romanian government in dealing with the fight for corruption?
The government last year, which I'm most familiar with, did a yeoman's job in terms of advancing the rule of law, even though they did not control the parliament. Notwithstanding that, we put in effect, we helped the government, the justice minister, the interior minister here, put in effect a zero tolerance policy with regard to human trafficking, organized crime, drugs, things of that nature. So I think a tremendous amount of progress was made over the last 14 months or so.
Are you concerned, or were you concerned when you were here that the Chinese were stepping up their game?
Well, Chinese influence around the world and increasing Chinese influence is a concern. It's because every company in China, or virtually every company, especially the more substantial ones, report back to the communist Chinese government. It's a source of espionage. It's a source of basically organized theft of intellectual property and trade secrets. The Romanian information technology area and Romanian IT, their businesses are booming. Cities like Cluj, Timișoara, Iași are destined, and Bucharest for that matter, are destination points for people from all over Europe and other countries to come to work in the technology sector. It is flourishing. It is probably one of the best in Europe. It's world caliber. You have places like Amazon that are in Bucharest and Iași, companies like Amazon that are in Bucharest and Iași. You have other, Microsoft is here. You have a tremendous amount of Romanian talent and people from overseas that work in that sector. So Romania is a leader in the technology area and will continue to be so, which will support what I see as Romania becoming a leader in Europe in the years to come.
In your time here, what did you see there in that, the business side? You think America, still the number one economy in the world. Why do you think it's not trading more? Where do you think it could trade more? Both directions.
I think the last year was really, for the most part, and for the statistics game, a aberration. I think COVID skewed a lot of numbers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Number two, I'm not sure how those numbers were calculated, because I think the relationship with the United States is much more significant than those numbers indicate. A lot of U.S. companies that deal with Romania may not deal with Romania through their U.S. entity. They may deal with Romania through an offshore entity, for example, in the Antilles. So I think if you look through that subsidiary issue, the relationship is not at number 10. I think it's probably closer to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And the issue is, why isn't it number 1? I think because it's in Europe. I think Romania has started to modernize, not just militarily, but has started to modernize across the board. Romania, as you know, was known as the breadbasket of Europe. it is still a leading producer of grain,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have very much processing plants. They export grain, they import bread. Go figure that one out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the issues we were working on. We were also working on modernizing irrigation canals, irrigation technology, which is not most of us until they really understand modern farming. We've also been working in developing their manufacturing. Ford, for example, has a very substantial plant in Craiova, where they build and sell a lot of cars. Mostly they're smaller cars. They're mostly for European and non-US markets. But
Right.
again, that's one of the issues that's going to be addressed. And I think as Romanian manufacturing improves and increases, which is what we've been working on during my tenure here, those numbers are going to change dramatically.
Is there any unfinished business that you said, boy, I'd like to see that to be brought further down the line? Was it being
Well, you know,
business?
everything's unfinished. I come out of real estate. You buy one building, you want another one. You have two, you want three or four. You got four, you want six.
Right.
So you always want more. But I think we made tremendous progress last year. It's one of the great achievements in my mind is the signing of a 10-year defense cooperation roadmap at the beginning of October between Romania and the United States, which will basically serve as the roadmap for collaboration going forward. One of the things that I'm especially proud of that we were able to put in place is I advocated against the scourge of human trafficking very much. They have to put an end to it. And one of the things we did in conjunction with that, and that the Romanian government and law enforcement were just terrific in that regard. They really work hard. But one of the things we're able to do is get an agreement between the city of Bucharest and law enforcement and the Orthodox Church to build a shelter for trafficking victims that would have various assistance, medical, spiritual, psychological, whatever the victims would need in terms of assistance, in addition to obviously food and shelter and whatnot, which I think is very important. It's the first one of its kind. The agreement's first one of its kind that was done. And I recently met before I left with the Metropolitan in Timișoara, Ioan, and we're going to try to do the same thing up there. He's all in favor of doing that, and he's going to work with the government of Romania to do that.
I want to thank you, Adrian, for your time.
It's been a pleasure being here with you, and I look forward to our lunch or dinner, and I'll see what your favorite food is.